In the ashes of 9/11, as a wounded nation mourned thousands of its fallen citizens, the United States was faced with the ultimate dilemma: wait to be attacked again, or take the fight to the enemies. Rising from the ashes were not just jets that dominated the skies, but deadly sharks that prowled the oceans, some of the most lethal submarines to ever exist. Today we'll be leaving no stones unturned as we unravel the stories behind them, including one so shrouded in mystery that to this day no one knows the full might of its devastating capabilities. With the way I see it, there's absolutely no way we'd have made this video without talking about the USS Virginia, SSN 774. As the first of the Virginia-class attack submarines, the submarine marked a new era in naval history. And yes, it came packed with all kinds of amazing tech capabilities. So how did they design this revolutionary new vessel? Well, first, they focused on using a steel hull, a steel superstructure for robustness, and a tougher outer structure. Then they also used a steam turbine and a nuclear propulsion system, both of which make up some forward-thinking design if you ask me. Designed by the Electric Boat Corporation of Connecticut, the Virginia class represents the next generation of U.S. nuclear attack submarines, and a more cost-effective alternative to the Seawolf class. But don't take this to mean that that's the only place it shines, especially compared to the aging Los Angeles-class ships. For one, the USS Virginia possesses similar underwater speeds of up to 25 knots, and secondly, it's much quieter. Sure, it had its fair share of bugs and tweaks to work out at first, but with vigorous testing and iterative tweaks over the years, it's really proved itself. Another thing that really sets this submarine class apart is that it comes with a photonics mast that allows ship designers to install the boat's control room in a lower, less geometrically constricted location than a normal optical tube periscope. Like that wasn't enough, it is also unique in the US Navy for having a pressure chamber that can deploy SEALs, divers, or other special operation troops while submerged, as well as an all-digital ship and ballast control system handled by relatively senior watchstanders. Now let's talk about the weaponry. At the core of the USS Virginia, did you know that it has 12 VLS tubes? And each of them is crucial for the vessel's multi-role capabilities. To start with, being able to shoot off 7 Tomahawks from each tube allows Virginia to max out on 84 missiles. That's 85 times mass precision strikes on land targets far away. Plus, the Virginia is also equipped to fire super-fast Mk-48 torpedoes, or Tomahawks, depending on the needed situation. What enemy in his right mind would want to face an invisible sub launching all that destructive power? Your guess is as good as mine. Between the Virginia and other submarines, especially of the older classes, you'd be hard-pressed to say it doesn't blow its competition wide away. No wonder the US relies on it to covertly conquer enemies around the globe. But speaking of its operational history, it's quite unfortunate that very few details about specific missions are publicly available. Yes, sir, most of its operations tend to be highly classified. However, we do know that on November 23, 2005, Virginia completed her first deployment in support of the global war on terrorism. Heard about it? Well, after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States, Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, took responsibility for hijacking 4 planes and crashing them into the World Trade Center towers, claiming thousands of lives. In response, a US-led coalition launched military actions targeting Al-Qaeda training camps and the Taliban regime in Afghanistan that was protecting them. Over the next 2 decades, the war on terror expanded to fight terrorist groups in Iraq, Syria, Somalia, and beyond, with many believing it replaced the Cold War. Also, in April 2010, the submarine also returned from a 6-month deployment, having covered 37,000 miles. And again, much of the details of its escapade are out of the public eye. So you see, while we don't know the full scope of this formidable sub's missions, it's clear that the USS Virginia has been on the front lines advancing American interests for nearly 2 decades. With its critical but clandestine roles, I can't help but feel it's one of the quintessential submarines of this era. After all, the main purpose of a submarine is to be invisible. So far though, Virginia gets high marks for having good stealth, multi-mission flexibility, adequate speed, good armor, and continuous improvements. And with a service life planned into the 2040s, she's still going to be paving the way for a long time to come. However, it does come with its fair share of issues. At $3.8 billion, Virginias are far more expensive than the older Los Angeles submarines they replaced. But hey, it's not too bad for being the first of her class, right? Well, if you love the USS Virginia, or hey, attack submarines, then I'm certain you'll also adore the USS Minnesota, SSN 783. As a nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, the Minnesota is the 10th of the Virginia class. Built by the Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut, its hull structure was made extensively by steel in a steel superstructure like the USS Virginia. But it's got an even better story. Delivered by the U.S. Navy on June 6, 2013, by Huntington Ingalls Industries, the submarine came 11 months ahead of schedule. However, after its commissioning 3 months later, the Minnesota had to remain in the General Dynamics Electric Boat shipyards in Groton, Connecticut for over 2 years. Why, you ask? Well, a broken pipe joint was discovered in the vessel's nuclear reactor. Although this defect wouldn't have led to a reactor incident, it would have impacted the reactor's ability to produce steam, essential for propulsion. And guess what? The issue wasn't even unique to the Minnesota. 2 other Virginia-class submarines had the exact same problem. After the Navy and U.S. Justice Department investigations, stricter quality control was put in place, emphasizing the need for transparency in the construction of critical military assets. And thankfully so, because Minnesota became a winner. At the heart of the USS Minnesota is its nuclear reactor, which provides electricity to power all of the submarine systems. Designed and built by Bettis Atomic Power Laboratory, the submarine uses the S9G pressurized water reactor, rated at 280,000 shaft horsepower. But that's not all. The reactor also provides steam to drive 2 geared steam turbines, each generating up to 40,000 shaft horsepower. So when you put everything together, can you see why Minnesota is able to reach speeds of over 25 knots submerged? While stationed in Groton, Connecticut from 2009 to 2015, the USS Minnesota took part in extensive local operations and training to prepare the crew for overseas deployment. It was also used for inspections and weapons testing. After that, it conducted 3 deployments to the European theater in Scotland, Spain, and Norway from 2017 to 2021 in support of American strategic interests. In 2019 particularly, the submarine showed its amazing combat ability by conducting an expeditionary loadout of a Mark 48 advanced capability torpedo in Norway. That year, it was given the Battenberg Cup for Best Warship in the Atlantic Fleet, a clear indication of the crew's high standards of excellence. Just 2 years ago, it also transited to the Pacific Fleet to participate in the first ever anti-submarine warfare training exercise with the Colombian Navy. With a crew of approximately 140 sailors, the Minnesota is capable of taking part in a wide range of missions, including anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface ship warfare, strike warfare, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And it's all because the vessel is packed with a lethal arsenal to carry out its missions. It has 4 20-inch horizontal torpedo tubes that can launch both the advanced Mark 8 heavyweight torpedo and Tomahawk land attack missiles internally. In the bow, the submarine also has 12 vertical launch system tubes, like the Virginia, that can hold weapons like the Tomahawk cruise missile, as well as mines or unmanned vehicles, depending on the mission requirements. To detect threats, the Minnesota uses sophisticated sensors too. It comes with towed array sensors like the TB-16 and TB-29 that can be deployed externally from the submarine when extended detection range is needed, as well as spherical active and passive sonar arrays that aid in long-range detection of surface ships and submarines, both when actively pinged and passively listening. Over the last 2 decades, the United States Navy has operated a highly unusual submarine that has received little public exposure, most likely due to its clandestine operations. And that guy is the USS Jimmy Carter, SSN-23, a submarine so secretive that many have no idea what it's capable of. Designed to counter the danger of Soviet ballistic missile submarines, while also replacing the aging Los Angeles class of attack submarines, the Seawolf class of nuclear-powered fast attack submarines is one of the most interesting classes in naval history. And the Jimmy Carter SSN-23 is no different. It is one of the 3 Seawolf-class submarines in service, but it is the only one adapted for seabed warfare, which involves unreported operations deep beneath the oceans that may target important infrastructures like power lines, telephone cables, and even natural resource extraction systems. Only a few nations have the capability needed to carry out such operations, and that's because only a few of them have a submarine like the Jimmy Carter. On June 29, 1996, General Dynamics Corporation's Electric Boat Division in Groton, Connecticut, was granted the contract to build the submarine. But while she was supposed to be commissioned in late 2000 or early 2002, Electric Boat received an $887 million contract extension to modify the vessel for highly secret missions and testing of new submarine technology. Larger and more sophisticated than the other two Seawolf boats created in the 1980s, the Jimmy Carter is almost always part of the US Navy's most covert operations. As a matter of fact, because of the considerable changes made to the original design, it is even described as a subclass of its own. Can you imagine that? Till date, this boat is the only submarine named after a living past president, as former President Carter became a submariner after earning his BS degree from the United States Naval Academy in 1946. Throughout his naval service, he advanced to the rank of lieutenant and served both in the Atlantic and Pacific fleets. Juicing up the vessel, however, is a single S6W series reactor that's primed to provide unlimited ocean-going range while still having an underwater speed in excess of 25 knots. It isn't the speed that makes the boat notable, though. The assault submarine's greater size is the result of a modification that featured unique fore and aft thrusters that allowed the sub to remain stationary underwater, as well as a 100-foot hull extension known as the multi-mission platform that functions as the underwater hangar. And yeah, it can do all kinds of stuff. It enables the SSN-23 to transport remotely controlled vehicles, capable spools, special operations vessels, and other advanced technology required for secret activities and enhanced warfighting capabilities. Additionally, the Jimmy Carter also features an ocean interface that enables the operation of a remotely operated vehicle capable of retrieving and deploying weapons, countermeasures, and sensors. It can also carry dry deck shelter for an advanced SEAL delivery system for special operations forces while accommodating up to 50 men. While a lot of the Carter's features remain hidden from the public eye, we know that all the vessels in the Seawolf class are equipped with a strengthened sail and are up to 70 times quieter than the first-generation Los Angeles class boats and 10 times more than the best of the Los Angeles submarine lineups. Additionally, it has an advanced suite of electronics, including a 24-foot diameter spherical sonar array positioned in the bow, a wide aperture flank array sonar mounted on the flanks, and the capacity to carry a towed array sonar, which was recently installed. Each one of the three Seawolf-class SSNs was also fitted with a modular architecture that allowed for further improvements such as armament development and improved sonar systems, which are still considered future-proof today. However, it's worth mentioning that these boats lack exterior armaments, but are each fitted with 8 torpedo tubes, double the number of the Los Angeles class, as well as a double-deck torpedo chamber to enable simultaneous combat of several threats. It also had a 30% increase in weapons magazine capacity, which could hold up to 50 Mark 47 heavyweight torpedoes, Tomahawk missiles, and sub-Harpoon anti-ship missiles. Curious about its operational history so far? Hard luck, guys, because no one truly knows. The exact type of missions the USS Jimmy Carter has conducted in the past 2 decades remain classified, and, frankly speaking, wouldn't be making their way to the public anytime soon. When you think about it, the mystery of the Jimmy Carter is worth pondering. On one hand, it's almost impossible to predict what roles it played in the grand scheme of things, yet everyone knows it's been a super success. The submarine has been seen returning to port flying the skull and crossbones, a symbol used by submarine sailors to indicate their operation was accomplished. Plus, it also carries battle efficiency medals and a presidential unit citation, indicating that it has completed several critical and most likely dangerous missions. It's purely speculative, but it might have even intercepted underwater fiber optic communications. Overall, the lack of open information is why we'll be drawing the curtains on this boat without talking about its cons. It might not even have one. The USS Jimmy Carter's slogan is Semper Optima, which translates to always the best, and it appears to be living up to it. So hey, if you want to learn all about super spy boats like the USS Jimmy Carter, then this is the best place to be. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be the first to know when a new video is released. But don't just stop here. Check out the channel for more fantastic videos like this.